Hi everyone, this is JNGY bringing you just before the deadline the 10th episode of Module Review Update. This includes the module we got in June and July. As always, you can use the online Google Sheet for timely updates. You are also welcome to join my Discord server for more discussions. Let's get into the update. First, I'm briefly going through Ray. For detailed analysis, you can check out my Operator Hindsight video for her. Basically, it's a good improvement to her skill 2, which is a bit awkward to use before due to frequent reloads and difficulty timing her Sandbeast. The module overall optimizes the cycle and massively improves the experience using skill 2. It also makes the Sandbeast redeployment time matches up completely with skill 3's downtime if an enemy is defeated during the skill. Cons are mostly in two aspects. One, merely 10% damage increase. Most of the good stuff is QOL. It does not increase the amount of ammo Ray can fire during skill 3 other than when she starts the skill with 7 ammo. Overall, QOL for using her daily, but if you are mostly bringing her to tackle IS where you use skill 3 100% of the time, this module is very optional. Next is Gladiia Y. This is actually the first possible way for pull forces to reach level 3, so significant enough to be considered in Shifter Knights. She can now pull weight 3 enemies to right in front of her if the distance is met, where without the module they can only be moved slightly. But know that the continuous pull from her skill 3 tornado does not benefit from this, only pull forces directly exerted by her gets applied. The upgrades give her damage improvement to light enemies, but honestly, usually when we use her, we don't need her for damage. If we're using her as a silent holder, it's usually in the context of AH team, where Module X would honestly be a better choice. And let's face it, her previous module is super dominant being the core of AH team, providing massive improvement. Going solo, she's more used for her utility, which is pulling, so her damage on light enemies are cherry on top but doesn't really worth the upgrades. My recommendation overall, Module X level 3 most of the time, and Module Y level 1 in certain scenarios. Next we have Ifrit Delta, the first burn element module in a format that's almost identical to Abernhold's Delta and Logos Delta. First of all, mechanic-wise, the quote-unquote burn damage in her skill 2 description, which is Arts DOT, can inflict the actual burn damage, which is elemental impairment. You need to wrap your mind around this. But that same Arts DOT does not trigger the additional elemental damage in her upgrades, which honestly is a big letdown. You can see this module as a way to extend the resistance shred that Ifrit skill 3 offers in the form of burn burst, and most of the time when we set up for amplifying arch damage, it involves other members like Swire skill 3, Switzerland skill 3, Ifrit Alter, etc. The amount of burn damage Ifrit can deal will go up along with it. But there are a lot of problems with the design of this module. I know all of these Delta modules use the transfer rate of 8%, but it really doesn't work with Ifrit. For skill 2, which is usually AFK, most of the time enemies are dead before the burst even happens. This is not the worst part because it's the same for Abernholds and Logos. What's different is that Ifrit is not a consistent damage dealer. Blast casters have an attack interval of 2.9 seconds. Ifrit does not have attack increase in her skill 2 and skill 3, so she just isn't able to put in elemental damage during burst window as effectively as Abernholds and Logos. Ifrit only deals about 30k damage with skill 3. If you put that in the context, when we need Ifrit for resistance shred, it's usually against boss enemies, so the EHP we're looking at is 2000. And for bosses with more than 45 resistance or 51 with potential 3 or higher, she won't be able to cause burn burst even with a full skill 3 use. The problem here is, in the current state of game, 50 resistance doesn't really strike me as high, at least not high enough to justify using Ifrit. So here's the problem, if resistance is too high, she can't trigger burst. If resistance is low enough for burst to happen, I don't think I even need Ifrit. Even when we accept that, okay, we're just using the module to extend the resistance shred, so it's okay to crunch it down slowly and make the burst happen after skill 3. But then, the amount of elemental damage Ifrit can deal off skill is just minimal, so unfortunately I think the design principle of this module simply doesn't work for Ifrit. they really shouldn't copy the same 8% transfer rate for Blastcaster. Also, as an arts support, the module doesn't really work with the best arts damage dealer right now, which is Logos. This is due to the competitive nature of different element types. They are just fighting with each other. Either way, there's gonna be one of them whose module effect gets nullified because the burst effect are incompatible. As a conclusion, comparing Module X and Module Delta, at least currently I don't see any value in rocking Module Delta. Module X wasn't the best thing ever and will suffer from SP lockouts, but at least it was more improvement for AFK, so before other pieces in the burn element system, especially a burn ritualist, come to release, I suggest not investing in this module and stick with Module X level 1+. Next, we have Penance Y. Comparing to the survival-based Module X, this one gets slightly more to the aggressive end. Having defense attribute and defense modifier is nice, and has an advantage over X against ranged and physical enemy. It also brings a 28% increase to reflection damage. But the attack increase with base is highly diluted by the super big attack modifier in skill 3, so the effect is less significant. The damage increase in this module is mostly in reflection damage, but not her direct damage, so the actual improvement depends more on what enemy she's facing. And from the experience of using Penance, she doesn't really lack that damage. Her biggest problem still lies in surviving until the first skill, and that's why we rate Module X high, and picking this module gives up that key survival bonus. So in my opinion, against hard-hitting enemies, Module X is very important to help her start snowballing her barrier. Module Y is for upping her damage when surviving until skill is not an issue. But I'd also argue that by that time, using Mudrock instead may be a cheaper solution than building another level 3 module. Overall, I will recommend X more than Y. Then we have Swire Alter's module. One key PSA I feel like I need to do, and many of you may have yet to realize, is that her talent has never worked as intended since her release. Despite her talent description says she has 10% chance to save ammo for other snipers, it has always been 20% for both herself and other snipers. Second thing is that her potential 5 also never worked, so with or without potential 5, she saved ammo for herself at 20%. This is still true without module and at module level 1. With module level 2 or above, the description is now 20% chance to save ammo for other snipers, but what it does is just fixing the description, making it legit. The chance is 20% before and after, no improvement on that part. Good news for herself is that module level 2 will also make her potential 5 work as intended, so plus 2% chance to save ammo for herself. Therefore, the only legitimate changes from upgrading this module to level 3 is fixing her potential 5, increasing the chance to save ammo for herself by 5%, and sharing out a 12% chance to save ammo for non-sniper ranged operators. To be honest, it's a bit of a shit show. Pros about this module: it gives her a higher DPH and increases her expected total damage of skill 3 by about 20%. But that's only for expected damage, not DPS, because by having more ammo or more chances to shoot more ammo, it also takes her more time to spend them. If you turn off her skill early, you also get a lower return than expectation. This module by design is a support-oriented module, but 5% wasn't too much for herself. The upgrade is inconsequential for other snipers other than fixing the description, but most ammo skills are in the sniper department. Outside of them, the most notable operators that can benefit from this module are just Lumen and Ella. Bad news is both of them don't really need this buff very much, and this module doesn't lift the requirement of having to deploy Swire Alter at 32 DP. How is she supposed to go support by being so clumsy? Last but not least, this module gives her 60 attack attribute, which honestly is low considering she has an 886 base. As reference, Rosmontis and Visitor with about 800 base attack stat gets 75 and 65 attack from their module respectively. This module is probably the worst we've seen since 2024. Man, how the tables have turned. Coming next, we have Mostima X. This is a very generous module, hence the A+ for module rating. It brings a lot of cycle improvement to caster knights, especially herself, with those absurd SP requirements. It shortens the downtime of her skill 2 and 3 by 9.4 seconds and 20.7 seconds respectively. But for other casters, the improvement from having a plus 0.4 per second SP buff to plus 0.6 per second is less significant due to marginal effects. The point here is that if there's not a lot of casters that she's buffing, sometimes the same time can be saved from deploying a Mostima that costs 8 DP less with Module X. And again, the module doesn't live the requirement of having to deploy her. I love to trade that for less SP buff. From the perspective of making Mostima viable, the 90% or 99% slow offered by Module X is just unparalleled, game-changing for Mostima. So outside of using multiple casters, this module just doesn't bring the same level of impact for most players. So overall, Module X is better in cast knights or when Mostima is used for her skill 2 like in CCP Underdawn. Module Y is still goated for the area effect, massive slow as a strong crowd control. Overall, both of them are worthy of level 3, and although Y is more recommended, I guess the caster buffs can also be a good addition to your caster use. Finally, we have Swire Alter Y. With Module Y, Swire can revive way more times than before. It's a massive up from the theoretical 5 times to 33 times in standard stages. So now she can viably serve as a short-term immortal block unit, literally buying time for others to come back. But that's based on having vanguards to support her. I've talked about this in the hindsight video. It's a shame that they mismatched the DP cost reduction base effect and the revive cost reduction talent and putting them separately in Module X and Y. This module is less user-friendly than Module X outside of when she's dying and reviving all the time. The DP pressure is definitely higher with Module Y. Overall, the additional coin in Module X is good for halo dropping and providing utilities like healing and pushing. The base effect leaves you with some natural DP growth. Module Y gives her higher damage potential and much cheaper when you need her to trade life for time. I would actually give this a 50-50 and you can pick depending on what you want from her. You can go with Module X level 1+ or Module Y level 3. That's it for this episode. Keep an eye out for my breakdown on the latest integrated strategy specialized module when it releases in CN, and I will see you in another video. Thanks for watching, bye bye.